Welcome into the Big Fight Breakdown here on ProBox TV. Is what we have going on this weekend, right? A 5-on-5 matchup that might define a new phase in boxing. That's right, team fighting. Are you ready for it? But the headliner of that, of course, is the heavyweight showdown. Deontay Wilder versus Zhilei Zhang. Both fighters coming off losses. The winner might have limitless opportunities in front of him. The loser might be wondering what their place is in the sport and if they have a future in it. Jimmy Smith joined alongside Paulie Malignaggi, Chris Algieri, and of course Teddy Atlas joining us by Zoom. I'm going to start with you, Paulie. I am surprised, I'm wondering if you are, to see Deontay Wilder fighting again at all. His last performance, extremely flat against Joseph Parker. It was the kind of fight he couldn't pull the trigger. That usually shows you a fighter has done. Are you surprised to see him again?
You know what? I'm not surprised because the heavyweights, they like Big Bang Zhang. You know, he's got that nickname. Everybody can punch in the heavyweight division. So big punchers, especially by heavyweight standards, will always leave a curiosity. Of course, I got the heavyweight hat on just in honor of the heavyweight.
A classic, by the way.
In honor of the heavyweight conversation today. You know what? I'm not shocked at all because Wilder has always brought a sort of a fanfare, but also a curiosity. Mega punchers always bring that, you know? Zhang also brings sort of a curiosity, you know? A guy from the Far East who's this big and has had the success he's had, that's a first as well. So, you know, although they seem to be on the other side of their prime, there's still something about heavyweights. There's still something about big punchers. There's still something about Zhang himself, too, that will draw and generate curiosity. I'm very curious about this fight regardless. I want to see what version of them is still left between two heavyweights that have had a very successful run. I mean, since the Olympics, these two guys are both 2008 Olympians. Granted, it was two different weight classes. Wilder was actually in the heavyweight division in the amateurs, while in the amateurs, what Zhang fought in was a super heavyweight division. Wilder won a bronze medal in 08, and Zhang won a silver medal in 08. So, you know, these guys have been at it for a while. They've been at the top of the sport in and around it for a while as well. There's a curiosity. Big names attract big attention. I'm not surprised this is the headliner, especially now that the Bivol and Beterbiev is, you know, been scrapped for the Zinad taking Beterbiev's place. Yeah,
we'll get to that in a second, but sticking with the heavyweights, are you surprised? We just saw the odds on the screen. You see him plus 140 for Zhang, minus 170. I'm sorry, plus 140 for Wilder, minus 170 for Zhang. Do those odds, Chris, surprise you at all? Almost a 2-to-1 favorite.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I agree with the champ. I'm not surprised that this fight's happening. One, because of the era that we're in now, where Turki Al-Sheikh loves heavyweights, puts them together. But also, we have this 5-on-5 situation. Now, these guys, these promoters, both Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn, they want to win. So they're going to pick the best guys possible. And even though, like, it's weird to see Wilder with Eddie Hearn and Zhilei Zhang came with Frank Warren, came out of nowhere, they both want to win. So they're getting the toughest guys they can.
Bring in the ringers.
Yeah, they're bringing in their ringers to fight each other in a fight that actually makes a lot of sense. Both guys are coming off a loss to Joseph Parker in their last fight. So, like you said, champ, yeah, are they over their peak in terms of their hill? Sure, but they both are. So that usually tends to make really good fights.
I'm just going to say that. It's a great fight. I was going to say, a lot of times when you've been great, but you're just a little bit off past it.
As long as you're both past it.
You have more defensive liabilities if you're both past it, exactly.
It's like Ali Frazier 3. I mean, they were both past it. I mean, the best
of the three.
Yeah.
Teddy, when you look at this fight, along with the 5-on-5 format, you know, both the champs talked about the excitement level both of these guys bring, including, once again, the new 5-on-5 format. What are your thoughts on this whole event together in the excitement factor, Teddy?
As long as you get good fights, who the heck cares?
Yeah, amen.
Right? I mean, let's get right to it. You know, as long as if this is the format that it takes, make it a little more interesting, you know, tweak the sport a little bit. Sport could use tweaking, you know, but at the end of the day, with all the tweaking, all the twerking, all the quicking, whatever, it's still going to come
Hopefully
down.
Not too much twerking there, Teddy.
Yeah, well, not too much. I hope not. It's still going to come down to what do you put in the ring? Do you put in fights in the ring that's going to please the public? Fights that are competitive, fights that are exciting, you know, fights that we want to see. And they're doing that. They're doing it in a different format with the team concept. It's cool. Nothing wrong with it. But the most important thing is what is getting in the ring. And what's getting in the ring on this 5 versus 5 is all interesting, competitive, even intriguing fights. Even intriguing to what the two champions just said about two heavyweights at this point in their career. You know, it's only everyone loves, we just finished doing Undisputed. That had a power to it, that name. You know, that gets your attention, Undisputed. last man standing. That has power to it. That gets your attention. You get that with a heavyweight fight, one man standing usually, or a lot of the time. But in this case, with two older guys, it's gonna be one man left standing as far as his career. So it's got all the elements to make for box office. And when you make box office, the promoters are happy, and when they're good fights, the public's happy.
What I'm curious about, and I'll go to Chris, let me ask you about this. Teddy just said it, almost like in the pro wrestling days, loser leaves town kind of match. The loser might have to retire, might end up hanging up their gloves. There are serious consequences for loss. How do you like that kind of negative motivation? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? What are your thoughts on it?
No, I think it's great. I mean, it's one of the things that Wednesday Night Fights ProBox TV utilizes. We're putting guys in positions where this is a huge platform, huge opportunity for them, but a lot of times a loss here, you're going to tumble down further than you want to be. I don't think that's so much the case in this scenario. Like I said, especially now with Turki Al-Sheikh, he's bringing guys back in losses because the heavyweights are fun no matter what. And the fact that we're getting these guys to fight each other, I think we're breaking into a new era too. Not everyone needs to be undefeated.
Yeah, but you lose 2 in a row if you lose this fight.
You lose 2 in a row. Never on the street, but guess what? If the heavyweights, you'll still get a shot. They'll give you a shot with somebody else. And and like you talked about, Teddy, redemption. People love redemption stories. And heavyweights, man, it takes one punch. These guys are all big guys. They're all big punchers. We're looking at super heavyweights. Wilder might not be a super heavyweight in terms of his weight, but he is in terms of his punch. And Zhilei Zhang is a super heavyweight. We're talking a 280-plus pound man. So with these guys, man, it's so exciting. We're looking at the screen now with the Joe Joyce Zhilei Zhang fight. I was on the edge of my seat both those fights. That was so much fun. Two giant men, huge athletes who are very good at this sport, banging at each other. I mean, this is what heavyweight boxing is all about.
Well, what else is it about? It's about making the most of your opportunities. Paulie said it. Dmitry Bivol, thought we saw him against Beterbiev. Beterbiev is out. Who is in? And is it a classic trap fight when we come back?
Wednesday Night Fights.
Dynamite action on Wednesday Night Fights every other Wednesday on your boxing channel.
On the next Wednesday Night Fights, June 5th, Rajab Butayev takes on Guido Emmanuel Schramm. Live from the ProBox Event Center in Plant City. Get your tickets at ProBoxTV.com or take your chances at the door. Wednesday Night Fights.
Well, speaking of taking your chances, that's what we always do ringside, getting sprayed with blood in the last few events. For sure, it's going to be another great main event, this time in the 154-pound division. Well, speaking of competitive fights, a competitive fight we were all looking forward to. Dmitry Bivol versus Artur Beterbiev. Beterbiev, however, tearing his meniscus in training. We'll see how that affects him in his late 30s. But Dmitry Bivol instead will face Libya's Malik Zad, 22-0. But gentlemen, Malik Zinad, not a name that's going to get a lot of casual fans going, but it's also the other side of it is when you're the champ, you can't afford to take any fight lightly. Paulie, is that a trap fight to you?
I think it could be a trap fight. I first heard about Zinad. I'm going to go give or take about a decade ago, man. I mean, in Italy, they were telling me about this kid, this Libyan kid, Zinad, and he really didn't have a major deal, but he was, kind of a little bit talked about in Europe, and he was kind of a tricky fighter, and he was pretty good, and I looked into him, and the kid's not bad, honestly. At the time, I remember looking at him, like, oh man, it was like if somebody would actually take a look at this kid, he might have a chance to move up in the ratings a little bit. I guess nobody picked him up still. I guess Zinad is still sort of a below the shadows kind of guy, but he's getting his opportunity now. Tough opportunity, don't get me wrong. Bivol's always Bivol, but it's a bit of a banana peel type fight.
If you look at the odds, minus 4,000, that's not a typo. Plus 1,400. Bet $100 he wins, you get $1,400. Crazy odds. Chris, you and I were talking about this across combat sports, right? You were kickboxers, well, a boxer, I was a mixed martial artist. You either have an easy fight or a great opportunity. You're one of those two things to somebody. So this is Zinad's great opportunity. Bivol is told as the tune-up, get this kid over with, and then we'll get on to Beterbiev. How do you as a fighter stay out of that mental trap of, oh, this is the easy one? What's your thought on it?
I mean, I think Bivol's smarter than that, and not only because of who he is and what he's done in his career.
Easterners are just
they
don't overlook anybody.
Right,
yeah, exactly.
He's a hard-nosed guy. He's going to do the work no matter what. But also, all that time he spent out of the ring, which was not his fault. Right. I think he's still hungry. He has a rejuvenated hunger in him because of that inactivity he had. He had the Arthur fight was his last fight. That was kind of a get back to it fight. This fight kind of seems that way too, except if you look beyond it, who Zinad actually is. Listen, Zinad's 30. That's his prime.
No joke.
6'1", 22-0, 16 knockouts. All those numbers check out. This is an opportunity for Zinad that I'm sure he understands what it is. It's a gigantic platform. This is something he's been working for a very long time. He's had plenty of time to prepare for this. Yeah, this is very much, as you said, banana peel, trap fight. Very, very difficult fight.
I tell you what, it's a no-lose situation for Zinad because Zinad is good enough to look good in this fight, regardless of what happens. But because of Bivol's mental state, the culture that he's from, he's not the kind of guy who overlooks guys. So even if Zinad would be a guy who might be liable to upset somebody, I don't think Bivol's the guy he upsets. Nonetheless, though, I mean, was it plus 4,000 or whatever you said right there?
Well, listen, I'm putting money on that.
Plus 1,400, minus 4,000.
For the D-gens, you know what? I mean, Zinad can fight. Granted, does he beat Bivol? Probably not. But
but even if he looks okay, even if he looks good, even if he looks good or looks okay,
he's a live dog.
Maybe there's a prop bet somewhere in there for Zinad, right?
If he pushes Bivol, this is a door opener for him, 100%.
What I'm curious about, Teddy, from the boxing angle, I remember when you cornered Michael Moore taking on George Foreman, you constantly had to remind him, this guy's got a big punch, watch out. This guy's got a big punch, watch out. Fell for the big punch, end up losing the title. Is it difficult in camp to get a guy mentally prepared for a difficult guy who he might be looking past? I want your thoughts on it.
No, it depends who the guy is. We always look at the skill levels, obviously, the technique, the styles of the fighters. But what I always look at, too, and I've always talked about this when I was doing all the fights on ESPN, is I look at the makeup of the fighter, the disposition of the fighter. His, what's the word I'm looking for? Personality, his temperament. I look at the temperament of the fighter. And that is, for me, you could say, well, I want this guy to be aggressive. I want this guy to be more of a boxer. I want this guy to be more this, more that. But unless his temperament matches up with it, it ain't happening. And people kind of lose track of that. They're people. They're not machines. And you can have a guy, make him aggressive, teach him the peekaboo, whatever you want to teach him. But if his temperament is not attached to that, if he's not prone to want to be that, he ain't going to be that at the end of the day. If he's a cautious guy, he's going to be cautious. If he's an aggressive guy, he's going to be aggressive at the end of the day. And with Bivol, and Paulie said it great. Well, actually, they both said it great. You don't have to worry about that. His temperament is not going to allow him. Forget about his style. He's got a careful style, a style that's very disciplined, a style that doesn't throw caution to the wind, a style that is really the sweet science in action. It doesn't take a lot of chances. But his temperament wouldn't allow him to take this. So, no, to answer your question, Jimmy, I'm not concerned for two reasons. I wouldn't be concerned, the same thing the two champions said, I wouldn't be concerned with Bivol because his temperament will not allow him to overlook this guy. He's not made up that way. And also, we're not in there as Zinad is an awkward guy. He's got a long reach. He's got a good jab. He's one-dimensional. He's mostly jab and right hand, but he controls range, and that dimension is very unorthodox, very awkward. He drops his left hand from the safe distance. He shoots it up from the hip like Larry Holmes used to shoot up his jab. Very hard to gauge distance when a guy does that. So both champions are right. This guy ain't no walk in the park, but he ain't a power punch. He don't have TNT in his hands. So that's a good thing. And I'll leave it with one other thing. Bivol, if he needed it, we all get wake-up calls in our life. I know the two champions have. I have. We all have. At some point, it sticks with us. He got a wake-up call from never being complacent, never taking anything for granted, as good as he is in the Joe Smith fight. He's winning every minute of every round in that fight. And what happens towards the end? He got probably a little bit, careless, a little bit thinking that it's over, and he got nailed, and he got hurt by a good puncher. A real good punch, but it's because he got complacent. He was starting to take things for granted. That ain't happening again with Bivol, I don't think.
One thing you can never take for granted is the sanctioning bodies and whether or not they're going to add their belt to the mix. And don't forget, after Saturday, come watch us here at ProBox TV. We'll be breaking the fight down post-fight. As always, me and the crew, don't miss it. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, the heavyweight showdown that is not going to include the IBF title. Why? Why not when we come back? Welcome back. This weekend, the heavyweight showdown between Filip Hrgovic and Daniel Dubois, the 5-on-5 matchup, will not be for the IBF heavyweight title. Why not? Well, it turns out that Alexander Usyk has petitioned to keep the title because he's on medical suspension after his showdown with Tyson Fury. So the title will be in his possession when they have their rematch, apparently in October. So, to the panel here, Paulie Malignaggi, Chris Algier, of course, Teddy Atlas joining us via Zoom. It's great the IBF kind of sticking to the rules, Paul. You're always saying nobody sticks to the rules. They make it up as they go. I mean, IBF kind of sticking to the rules. Also, it's great it's an undisputed fight in October. Also, everybody's going to watch it anyway. Does it matter? The IBF title will be or not be a part of it. What's your thought?
Here's the thing, too, about boxing. Do we care about the belts or do we not care about the belts? So depending on who wants to win the conversation, the belts don't matter. Other belts matter. Okay, so the belts don't matter. What does it really matter then, right?
Right.
All of a sudden, they matter. All of a sudden, they matter. I'll tell you who it matters to. It's Filip Hrgovic. This poor guy can't get a title shot if his life depended on it.
2 years.
Even though he's been
2 years.
Been very, very deserving of a title shot. And now, once again, on the verge of getting a title shot, he now is not getting that title shot. So,
Also fighting a dangerous guy.
yeah, also fighting a dangerous guy. I mean, he's been fighting dangerous guys. I mean, he had to beat Zhang to win the other eliminator, which turned out not to be an eliminator at all. I don't know, man. I don't know what to make of it. It's boxing the way it is. There's pros and cons to this situation. I guess it depends on who you ask. Is it cool that the undisputed title remains on the line for Usyk and Fury? Yeah. Is Usyk really going to go fight Hrgovic after Fury if he beats Fury again? No, probably not. So what's the point? What are we just delaying the 6 months where Hrgovic fights for the IBF title a year from now instead? I don't see the point of it because if we really had to look down on it and analyze the situation, I do not see Usyk, if he was to beat Fury, fighting for the IBF title, looking to defend the IBF title against Hrgovic, if Hrgovic beats Dubois. And if Fury wins, well, you're going to have a part 3. So what happened? The belts are just hostages now? I don't know.
Where do you think, Chris, the belt has more value? With the Hrgovic-Dubois fight or later on in the year, obviously in the undisputed fight that is already going to sell like crazy, which will be, of course, Fury versus Usyk. Where does that have more value to you?
I mean, to the world and to me, Usyk and Fury.
But
But to Filip Hrgovic?
No, but also you force Usyk and Hrgovic more rapidly if you make Hrgovic for the IBF title. Because now if Usyk wants to win the undisputed title again, he's got to go take it from Hrgovic. So you create another undisputed fight that way.
But again, my point was the world doesn't care about that. And this is why...
So if the world doesn't care about that, then why not let Hrgovic fight for the title?
This is why we don't have a standard, and that's what we really need. And that's the problem. Because like you said, Champ, I mean, in some cases this makes sense because, hey, listen, we got the 2 best heavyweights in the world fighting for a rematch. They fought for those titles the first fight. Now they had a very, very close fight. Now they're having a rematch. Yeah, all those belts should be on the line once again. That makes sense. Also, we got this guy who's been lying in wait for 2 years, who can't get a fight. Can really fight and could be champion, and I think will be champion at some point, who's not getting his shot. So, yeah, it's, I understand both sides, both cases, but this is why this stuff with belts in boxing is so difficult because then you got a guy like Canelo Alvarez who holds his belts forever, doesn't have to fight mandatories, or a guy like Charlo who didn't fight for 2.5 years, holds all his belts, only recently just got stripped. So there is no standard, and that's always been a problem with boxing.
Boxing politics 101, huh?
Yeah, it's very, very true. Teddy, how does this change the nuts and bolts of the fight at all to you? Still have 2 great heavyweights who need to win. What are your thoughts on the nuts and bolts of the fight itself?
No, it doesn't change squat. I mean, both guys have to win to get to the title. I mean, it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anything in any element that would matter in any dimension at all. It doesn't change it as far as incentive. The incentive's the same. You win, you're going to wind up getting a title fight, and you're going to continue, being in big fights and getting paid. So it doesn't change as far as strategy. It doesn't change as far as anything. It's a do or die fight in some ways because you don't know if these opportunities are ever going to come again. If the stars are going to line up right, not only line up right athletically and boxing wise, but politically. You have to consider that in this sport. That you're lined up with the right people, the right promoters, the right organizations. The champion said it perfectly. It's a double standard. There is no standard, but if there's a standard, it's a double standard because the golden gooses, the golden boys, the favored people out there, the people that are favored. And you're not supposed to have favorite. You're a parent, you're not supposed to have a favorite. I'm a grandparent, I can't have a favorite. But boxing, those organizations, they would be horrible grandparents because they got nothing but favorites out there, and they show it all the time. And look, it is what it is. It's boxing. Unfortunately, we don't have a national commission like the other sports, so therefore we don't have a standard bearer, something to rely on and to count on. All I care about, to be honest with you, is that this is going to be an interesting fight, and I think it'll be a very good fight. And the winner will deserve to be up next, to be on deck. It's a little longer than it is with the Yankees. The Yankees, you're on deck for about, 10 minutes maybe at the most, right, guys? You guys watch baseball. In boxing, you might be on deck for about 2 years.
If you need Filip Hrgovic, yeah.
You got to get you got to get something to eat. But and you got to stay hydrated. But at the end of the day, I'm looking forward to this fight. Dubois, he got redemption in the Miller fight.
Yeah,
he had been known as a guy that was giving up in fights. He had all the talent in the world. And this time he put it all together with Miller. Hrgovic, he's a good, solid fighter. I can't wait to see it, I'll be honest.
Well, there may be a more compelling fight in the 5-on-5 matchup that is way out of the heavyweight division. So one the hardcores are looking forward to. We'll discuss what it is when we come back. Well, we've been talking about the heavyweights, but what about the featherweights? Raymond Ford, 15-0-1 versus England's Nick Ball, 19-0-1. This could be the under-the-radar fight of the night. Paulie, what do you think about it?
Yeah, solid matchups, man. I mean, Ball is a go-getter because he's all of 5'2", so he's got to go get you. And he does go get you. He has no problem going to get you. Ford more skilled, but actually doesn't mind, even despite the skill, being in that pocket and fighting in that skilled way. So it could be a clash of styles between guys who like to be in that center mix, banging it out.
And two guys who are coming off fantastic performances in their last fights. Ray Ford just won the title against Hrgovic. We just saw the clip from that. Nick Ball got a draw with Ray Vargas, where a lot of people thought he won that fight. And Nick Vargas is a very, very good fighter. So this is an excellent, excellent matchup. This is one of the fights that I'm really looking forward to on the card. A little bit of a sleeper, because again, we're talking about heavyweights. We got 130 pounders, 126 pounders. But I think this fight is going to pack a ton of action.
Yeah, one of those styles make fights type of matchups.
Yes.
Yeah, is this going to be a phone booth fight to you, Teddy, or is it about the outside? Whoever can keep it was going to win the fight. What are your thoughts on it, Teddy?
Well, Ford is a little more dimensional. I think, Paulie, they both touched on it. He's a little more dimensional. He can box on the outside, which he did half of his fight winning the world title in his last fight, and then half the fight he fought inside. So he can go in the trenches with Ball, or you would think that he would try to take advantage on the outside a little bit with Ball too. But let me tell you, don't discount Ball. Yeah, he throws a lot of left hooks at you. Yeah, he's coming forward all the time. He's a ball of fire, all of that. But he's got a good, solid jab, and he can control himself. He tightens up in that peekaboo style. He covers up pretty good. He doesn't just make himself a bull in the china shop all the time where, he's there saying, hey, just hit me, I hit you. He's a little more than that. He's a lot more than that. So it should be really interesting with the styles. And as I said, Ford can go and play Ball's game. He can play ball with Ball, or he can go and change the game. How's that?
Well, that is great. It's going to be 5-on-5 heavyweights. Just talked about the featherweight showdown. And don't forget, post-fight, join us here. ProBox TV, our YouTube channel, is ready to go. We love the comments. We love to react to the fans. Everything they say, we're going to react to it. And don't worry, you don't have to be nice to Paulie. As I say, he's not sensitive. But join us post-fight. You'll enjoy it. Enjoy the fights this weekend. And remember, we'll see you right after. We'll see you next time.